Bobby Crosby's here, the manager of Midland. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you guys doing?
We are doing real well. Bobby, I got to think you got to be having a blast with all these young players that you got and some guys that I know we talked about at spring training, but I mean, you got some real good players right now. It's exciting baseball there for you guys.
Yeah, we got some talented guys. I mean, they had their growing pains a little bit at the beginning. Obviously, the way I like things done, maybe they weren't a little bit used to, but talent-wise, these guys are off the charts. And spend the last 3 months with them, they know what I expect now, and the talent is showing. They're going about things the right way, in my opinion. So it's a fun team to be around.
Yeah, talk to us about that, because it's kind of there's a way to play this game. It's an old school way. It's a way that you learn. A lot of us like to call it the Oakland A's way.
Well, yeah, I mean, my go-to, I guess, is when they get to the big leagues, Kotz is going to want it a certain way. I mean, I went to Long Beach, he went to Fullerton. We kind of, we had that rivalry, but it's a sense of playing, I guess playing the game the right way, busting your butt, doing things for the team, not just yourself. If you hit a ground ball, it's running the ball out hard. If you pop it up, I expect you to bust it down the line. There's certain things that I think young guys come into pro ball and it can be an individualized thing where they're looking at their stats or they want to, do it for them. But, when they get to the big leagues, they're going to have to be team guys because the main thing there is winning. So I want to teach them how to win here. So when they get to the next level and then to the big leagues, it's already ingrained in them.
When we think about AA and now we know AAA, that the numbers are just crazy because of weather and altitude and dry air and desert. And we don't know if hitters are this good or the pitchers are that bad. But when you talk about AA, Midland, it's obviously more of a regular game. What do you think? We've seen other organizations who recently, we talk about the Angels. The Angels got a couple guys that they drafted last year up in the big leagues. The jump from AA to the big leagues, what do you think about that right now? If you were to say some of your guys, could they just skip AAA and play for the Oakland Athletics?
Yeah, I think Lawrence Butler definitely could. AA is a lot like the big leagues, and it was true when I was playing, and it's true today that maybe the most talent is here, and then in AAA, guys are a little bit more polished, maybe. But Lawrence Butler is a guy that it doesn't matter how hard the guy's throwing, how nasty he is, he's going to hit the ball and he's going to hit it hard. He does he has that little special trait about him that he has that sixth tool, and it's his brain. He's a smart kid. But when it gets tough or late in the game, he can step up. So he's a guy that, if I were to pick one guy right now that can go in Oakland right now and compete and do a pretty darn good job, it'd be Lawrence.
Now, you got to see what he did in spring training and fired everybody up. I mean, it was like, this kid is something special. Has this simply, because I'm looking at his numbers right now, has he simply just carried what he did in spring training to what you guys have now?
Yeah. And he had a little lull there for probably about 3 weeks or so where he went down a little bit and now he's picked it back up. He's the type of kid who likes the limelight. He likes people watching him play. So I wasn't surprised with what he did in spring training. I had him in the fall league this past fall. He did the same thing there. When the lights are on and when people are watching and paying attention, he has that ability to step it up. And he has to find that at times throughout a regular season, especially in Midland, Texas, where there's not a whole lot of people checking us out every night, but he has to find that inner drive to keep it going. And he's found that recently where he's putting on a show and he does it almost every night.
I kind of like that. I do like bright lights go on, player plays big. I know people like consistency and they want you to do it no matter what the situation is. But as we know, if you're going to be a star in this game, you got to play when the bright lights are on, and no one ever complained about Reggie Jackson doing it. So, as a manager, right, don't you kind of love – I love a guy that's got that in him.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's huge. I'd rather have that than the opposite for sure. He wants to be up in a big situation. He wants people watching him. He wants to impress, and he does all those things. Yeah, so I definitely love having him up in the 9th inning, 8th inning. When the game's on the line, if he's up, I'm good. And he showed that the past week where he had some big hits for us and hit a walk-off, and he shines the brightest when the lights are on.
And I just think about his year. I'm looking at doubles. I'm looking at triples. I'm looking at a ton of hits. He's stealing bags. I mean, what doesn't he do?
I don't know. He does everything really well. He has good speed. He has good baseball instincts. He can get to any pitch. He has a quick bat. He can hit for power. He can bunt. He does everything really well. I mean, I wish I could give you one thing that he really doesn't do well, and I really can't. I mean, for him, it's more just being maybe helping other guys. I mean, he has such a talent that I've encouraged him to help every guys. And if you hit a ground ball, I expect you to run as hard, almost as hard as you can, unless you know you're out. But just the little small things that I've been hard on him at the beginning of the year, and now he 100% does. There really isn't one part of his game I look at right now and go, you know what, he's really got to be a little more polished here. He's doing on all levels, and I'm sure before it's all said and done, he's going to make an impact there, whether it's this year, but next year probably most likely.
Did you get to tell him that he was going to the Futures game?
No. Ed Sprague gave him a call and told him. So he's I wouldn't put it past him if he hit a homer or did something amazing in that game, because he's built for that.
How big is that for like that Tyler Soderstrom? I mean, we saw it last year with Langoliers. How big is that for them to go to this game?
I guess it's just affirmation on how good they are on their talent. I mean, Lawrence is a guy who knows it anyway. He knows he's good. He knows he's going to be a big leaguer, which almost all big leaguers have that inside him, but he knows he's going to be really good for a long time. So when you get invited to something like that for Lawrence, I'm sure it's just more affirmation that I'm really good at this game and I'm a future star, and that's where he's supposed to be.
All right, so my former teammate at San Jose State is Denzel Clarke's agent, and he tells me Denzel Clarke, he is a no-brainer, absolutely loves him. Take us through his year. We didn't get to see him so much in spring training because he was in the World Baseball Classic with Team Canada. Tell us about Denzel Clarke.
This is a fact, not over-exaggerating. He's the best athlete I've ever seen live. In a baseball uniform, for me live, I've never seen a better athlete. He runs down balls umpires, other players are like, this guy should be a receiver in the NFL. I mean, he scales walls. He does things that aren't normal for a baseball player to do. So 100% he's the best athlete I've been around in baseball. With that, baseball kind of came a little bit late to him. So it's something where just the baseball knowledge and the little small skill sets in baseball are things that he's just building up and growing. He's not completely there yet. He's raw, but to see a guy with that talent and still have great numbers here off elite pitching, he's only going to get better. I mean, if you have that type of athleticism, and then once he gets all those little small baseball things that become more natural where he doesn't have to think about it, the sky's the limit for him, because I haven't seen anything like it.
Well, I guess my buddy wasn't lying to me then.
No, he's going to be really good, and I can't wait for him just to keep growing. I'm telling you, if he can continue the growth that he has over the past year that I've seen him, within a year, it's going to be something. And I'm telling you, you're going to see this guy do stuff that people do not do on a baseball field. I mean,
do you think it's one of those deals that once the light turns, the light will turn on? Like at some point, it just happens in every single sport where the guy's got everything, but it's just not there yet, and that light turns on and poof. Is that where we're at with him?
I think we're getting to that point. I mean, there's going to be adjustments with his swing that he'll probably have to make from time to time. And it's, facing different pitchers and what to expect and what's your approach. Those are the small things that I'm talking about. And I think that's not so much a light coming on. That's just something, playing more baseball over time, you end up developing that. But to what you're saying, there is a sense of once he gets that down and he can just go out and play like he does here on most nights, it's something different. He has a different gear, a different level than most guys and anybody that I've taught so far.
We get a lot of people on this show who love minor leagues. They love Brett Harris. They just love him as a player. How much do you love Brett Harris?
Love him. Baseball player. He's a guy that, I talk about Long Beach and Cottswood, Florida. He's a guy that would, he fits that mold. You throw a fastball, hit a line drive to right, you hang a breaking ball, hit a homer to left. He'll bunt at any time. He knows where everybody should be on the field. He knows what everybody should be doing. He doesn't have to worry about himself because he's that smart. He's a true baseball player. Nothing gets by him. Every situation, he's ahead of it. He's a guy that, he'll be a leader in any clubhouse he's in. He's a leader in here. Guys respect him, knows he goes about his work the right way. He does everything you would ask of a baseball player. And he's just a super smart guy who knows the game inside and out.
How far away do you think he is?
Other than that not being my call, I mean, he's there. I mean, defensively, he's 100% there. There's no doubt about it. The power numbers haven't come along this year as much as, I thought they would. But the line drives are there. Midland's not the easiest place to hit. I'm not giving him a built-in excuse there, but he hits balls hard. He does, he's a type of guy that I don't know how much else he could do to say, hey, I'm a polished baseball player, because he already is. He's super polished. He gets it on every level. He's uber talented. So I just think it's a matter of whenever they feel he's ready to go to AAA and in the big leagues. I think that's inevitable, but I don't know at what point that'll be, obviously.
I love that you say it's hard to hit there, because that's what I want, because I can evaluate that. I can't evaluate Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody looks like Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams and Barry Bonds. I mean, how do you evaluate? I mean, Sky Bolt had these nothing against Sky Bolt, nice kid, but he came up with these numbers, and you're like, he's not going to do that at the big league. So at least we're getting a true measure of what these guys are in Midland. And that's why, Bobby, there's been times when, like, I was thinking like Kyle Muller, and I'm like, is it really better to send him back to AAA if you want to fix somebody, to send him to a place that's a bandbox and the ball's flying out? Or would it be better to send a guy to Midland where it more is like real baseball?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to scout or judge someone's talent on that. If you had a pop up and it's going out, in Midland, it's fair. I mean, it's fair to more of a pitcher's park. I mean, the wind blows in. These guys are hitting balls that would be out of most MLB ballparks. And I try not to let them have those excuses. Hey, hit a line drive. That's the way you got to play the game. But I mean, Lawrence Butler, I believe he has 10 home runs. I mean, if he's playing in a different park, it's a lot more than that. But these guys grind through it and know that's what they're given. But overall, yeah, I mean, it's a true judge on numbers wise on what a guy can do. You're not getting too many cheapies in Midland or even across this league. Most of them are very pitcher friendly.
You're around the big club, so you'll know this. When Cole Irvin was traded, it was like, oh no, because we all love Cole. Cole came on this show a bunch, and he was the one guy that you knew was going to take the ball. He was going to hopefully give you 30 starts. He was going to sniff 200 innings. And then all of a sudden he gets traded, and it's like, oh, my God. But Darell Hernaiz, I look at the record. I mean, he wasn't at that time considered this great prospect for the Orioles, but the Orioles have a lot of good prospects. They've been building there. I look at his numbers, whether I'm looking at the OPS, batting average, you name it, playing middle infield for you. What do we got there? Because the numbers look pretty special.
He rakes. He absolutely rakes. Crazy hand-eye. He could look like he's out in front and still get the barrel to it. Quick bat. He swings hard. You almost think like, dude, you got to ease up, because he looks like he's trying to crush the ball every time. But he hits the ball hard, almost every single time he's up. I mean, he uses all fields. If they pitch him away, he'll go that way. He'll stay up the middle. As a hitter, very, very polished, very he knows what he's doing. He's a smart young kid. And then the defensive side is something that he has truly busted his butt on. From day one, obviously, he gets me as a manager, and he said he was excited about it.
Yeah.
I think he hated me, truly hated me for the first month or so. And he said, he was kind of, taken aback because I wasn't going to let anything slide, because his defense definitely was behind his hitting. His first steps weren't there. Knowing where to be on every play wasn't there. And he is now, I mean, he was in my office every single day, and we just watched games together, and we'd, watch what the shortstop did and watch the first steps. And he has applied it. I mean, I haven't seen a guy really make, biggest steps as he's made in the last 2 months. His first steps are great. His hands are great. He has turned himself into a shortstop. I thought maybe we couldn't keep him as short, but how he's done this last month, he's a guy who can play a big league shortstop. He really has all the tools for it, and his bat is like I said, it's pretty special. He's going to hit at any level.
Well, attention to detail, and that's why I love what you're doing down there. That's called coaching. I mean, Ron Washington, when he was in town, he comes on the program, and we talked to Wash, all these years when he worked with Marcus. I mean, look at all the infielders for the Braves now going to the All-Star game. It's attention to detail every single day. Little things, because little bad things lead to dumpster fire. Little good things lead to greatness, and you got to do those things every single day, and I love hearing that. On the pitching side, you got guys that the A's have traded for. I think of Estes here, Cusick. Tell us what you got pitching-wise.
Yeah, Cusick has made a huge turnaround. I mean, last year he was a little erratic with his fastball and even his off-speed stuff, and he's found it. Credit to the pitching staff on that. He's found out where he's spotting up with his stuff. And that's the biggest thing for me. He would have, an inning or two last year where he just would completely lose it. And it hurt him, obviously with his ERA, and it hurt the team and his mental state. But he went to the fall league, and he pitched really good in the fall league. And then this year it's been a completely different person. I can't tell you rhyme or reason for it, but he hits his spots. He competes. He wants to stay out there. He has a different vibe about him. Maybe some guys come over here and it could be a little, getting traded or getting moved. It could be a little bit different. And maybe that was, part of the reason, but for him, he's stepped it up this year. I mean, he's at the verge of being really, really, really good. And he has been great for us this year. And this guy is awesome. I mean, he's entertaining. He is the most energetic, he's a wild man. He's crazy. He runs off the field every time. I haven't been around too many competitors like him, except for in the big leagues. Tim Hudson was an ultra competitor, but he was a different way how he did it. Joey doesn't want to give up a walk, a hit, a run, give up anything. And if he does, he's ticked, but he handles it the right way. His stuff is really, really, really good. But I just love how he handles himself and what he expects out of himself and how he works. He's a guy that when you watch him pitch, it's like, you got your money's worth for the ticket. He's super entertaining and fun to be around.
Let's end on this. I know you got to go. I've had conversations about you up here, and there is a lot of belief that there's no question that you will be a big league manager someday, and maybe a big league manager for the Oakland Athletics. For you, what has changed? What have you learned? And what is different about you now than when you first started?
First started as a coach?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's a lot except for just learning the game more. I mean, there's always different personalities that you're going to get. You talked about Wash. A lot of the stuff I do came from him. It's a passion. It's about the players. It's not about myself. I had my time playing. That was great. Now it's about them. So I pour everything into them. And what do they need? It's not about what I need. And I've tried to do that from when I first started coaching. Managing, there's always, there's different facets of the game. The running game, which I really didn't have to worry about as a shortstop that I've learned. And you get different personalities. Last year we had a tight knit group that knew each other because there was a lot of repeat guys. And this year we've had, uber talented guys come up, but they weren't a part of that same group. So it's how do we form these guys into all believing the same thing and being under the same umbrella and believing in each other. So there's always certain different things that are going to come up that are going to help me grow as a coach. But whatever happens with me coaching wise, that's great. And I would love to coach in the big leagues and manage in the big leagues. And I think that'd be a blast. But in the interim, I'm pumped just watching these guys kind of step up the next level. Like I talked about Hernaiz, seeing him go from here to here. That's what gets me going.
Yeah, though, one of the number one things that I learned all these years from Bob Melvin and doing the Bob Melvin show for, God, I don't know, 8 years or whatever it was, and getting to know Bob real well, was, yeah, we could talk about X's and O's and we can talk about baseball, but the manager, you got to deal with the players. You got to deal with the men. You've got to deal with the issues. You got to deal with the stuff that happens away from the field. Sometimes you're a father figure. Sometimes you got to be the guy that kicks them in the butt. Sometimes you have to be there for a hug. You know, we talk so much about the baseball side, but what a lot of people don't understand is what the new school manager, because Bob didn't get, Sparky Anderson wasn't doing this stuff for you.
Yeah,
Bob Melvin back in the day. But you need to care about these players. You need to care about their well-being, and that's something that I learned from Bob, and I'm sure that's something that you've had to learn.
That's everything. I mean, that is, I think I have a pretty good grasp on the guys inside now. Just kind of know what makes them tick. And I'm sure, and when everything I heard about Bob as a manager, that's what the players loved him. And the players can see through somebody who's fake, someone who cares about themselves and doesn't care about them as a person. The playing side is great. You're going to help a guy out. But yeah, I mean, guys come in and talk to me about what's going on personally, what's going on in their life. And a lot of times I know already. I kind of dive into that side with them. And I consider a lot of my friends, there's a line there where they know it's manager Bob, but it's also, I'm talking about myself, manager Bobby. Yeah. And then also, when it's time to play, it's time to play. But outside of that, I'll hang out with them all. I'll enjoy time with them and really get to know them. They know, I believe they know that I truly care about them as a person. And if baseball's their passion, which it is for most of them, that's what I really try to dive in on. How can I help them get to their goals of getting to the big leagues? So yeah, but it's more than just writing the lineup out. It's really diving into who the person is and what makes that person tick.
Well, I know how busy you are. I truly appreciate the time. You're still a huge fan favorite around here. All the A's fans still love you to death. So whenever we can have you, it's an absolute treat. Continued success, and let's talk later on during the season.
I appreciate it, Townie. Sounds good.
Take care, Bobby.
All right, buddy. You too.
Bobby Crosby, manager of Midland.